Stop!
Am I cursed?
No.
What am I?
You're my son.
What more than that? The casket wasn't the only thing you took from Jotunheim that day, was it?
No. In the aftermath of the battle, I went into the temple and I found a baby. Small for a giant's offspring. Abandoned, suffering, left to die. Laufey's son.
Laufey's son?
Yes.
You can still hear and see what transpires around you. I hope it's true, so that you may know your death came at the hand of Laufey.
And your death came by the son of Odin.
I love you, my sons. Remember this place. Home.
Loki, I thought the world of you. I thought we were gonna fight side by side forever. You know, maybe you're not so bad after all, brother. Maybe not. Thank you. If you're here, I might even give you a hug. I'm here.
What is going on, everybody? How you guys doing? Welcome to Marvel What If episode 7 of the Disney Plus series. It takes a little bit more of a lively approach. Now, this one is imagining what the universe would have been like if Thor, and he is played by Chris Hemsworth, by the way, had been the only child and become an unstoppable party force. Now, we all know what Thor's like. Thor is sort of like that jock quarterback who's always just into himself, loves the way he looks, everything's all about him, very selfish. If you think back to the first Thor movie, this is the reason why Odin had put the enchantment on Mjolnir, on the hammer, and with this, because Thor wasn't following his father's footsteps, he banished them and Thor lost his powers, and that's what really the whole first movie was all about. And a lot of the comics have sort of paved the way for whether Thor is worthy or for whether he's unworthy. And these stories we've seen being played out over comics many times before. So this series imagines what would have happened if Odin hadn't adopted Loki as his son, instead of returning him to his family with the frost giants. Therefore, Thor grows up as an only child, and that change has a huge impact on his character. Now, having Loki around as his brother in the movies and in the comics has resulted in Thor transforming into the hero that we all know and love from the comics and in the MCU. Thor's arrogance simply takes a backseat, and he's allowed to learn to appreciate what his father has become, the way his mother loved him, and of course, how bad his brother is, and set out to try and redeem his brother. And through that, he's looked upon himself in terms of being the arrogant person that he is, and made him a better person. In this episode, that doesn't happen because Loki is given away to the frost giants. Thor's arrogance just continues to grow and grow and grow. Now, Thor decides to throw a huge party on Midgard, aka Earth, which he believes Heimdall won't be able to detect him with, because basically nobody cares about Midgard. And through that, we see Thor meet Jane and Darcy, and yes, Natalie Portman and Kat Dennings is back doing their voiceovers in a fantastic way, by the way. Even Howard the Duck. So we see a lot of Thor's old friends and he crosses paths with familiar faces, including Loki. Yes, Tom Hiddleston is back. Captain Marvel. This one was played by Andrea Daniels and not Brie Larson. But Howard the Duck, as I said, Seth Green, he's back to do the voice. Also, Maria Hill, voice actor, is there. And we have quite a few sightings of Guardians of the Galaxies, although we don't hear much speaking from them, including Mantis, Rocket Raccoon. None of those guys really have any lines in this episode. But we do see the likes of a lot of the Guardians of the Galaxy in there. But the question is with this being said and this massive party going on, is Thor still worthy of becoming a hero and a king? Now, in regards to Loki, he doesn't really become this vengeful, bitter villain hell-bent on taking down Odin, and he turns out to actually be a good guy. Because, let's face it, Loki was the bitter son who was never meant to be a king and shoved to the side because he was this frost giant, this half-breed, this blue-skinned baby witch they got, which has always made him change his colour to adapt and fit into the people of Asgard. But he doesn't have that weight on his shoulders. So Loki is actually a good guy, and as Loki puts it, he's Thor's brother from another mother. A big saying that we have in our community when we have a good friend who's not related to us. But when the party on Earth starts, Thor gives Scourge from Thor Ragnarok a big thunder hug, and it's nice because you see him handing Scourge a drink, and he mentions that the drink will never run out. As you guys know, that's a big nod to the never-ending beer Thor gets when he visits Doctor Strange in Thor Ragnarok. I like that touch there. It was really nice to see. But when Thor, Sif, and the Warriors 3 are walking through Odin's treasure room, you can actually spot Thanos' fake, remember? Hela shouting out,
Odin's treasures.
Fake. Most of the stuff in here is fake.
So that I thought was a nice touch. But you see Topaz and you see Grandmaster from Thor Ragnarok enjoying some cake. And you see Topaz is wielding her melting stick, the famous melting stick which the Grandmaster begs her not to use from Thor Ragnarok. So look, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. This episode is more of a laugh and comedy in comparison to the dark episodes that we've seen before. I know some people might look at this and think, well, it's a comedy show. There's a lot of fun that's going on. It's not as big as the other episodes. Well, you might be a little right in some respects, but there's two things here. The first one is, give them a break because they've gone as dark can go. So, it's Marvel. It's Disney. Give them a chance to put a little bit of light and smiles on some faces, and that's exactly what they've done in this episode. But the other thing is, we also are seeing something which we've never seen before, something which the movies teased, and I'll come on to that in a second. But before that, you also see Thor taking a selfie with two members of the Sovereign. Remember the Sovereign, the golden race from Guardians of the Galaxy 2? It was Alicia, who was the golden high priestess, and obviously they was creating the Adam, which is Adam Warlock from the comics. We haven't seen him yet, though I'm guessing we'll see him in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. In here, you can see that Maria Hill's there. She tries to use Jane and Darcy to try and stop Thor from partying around. This party's infectious. Everyone on Earth is partying. It's crazy. It's like party everywhere, in every city, in every part of the world. So you can see it's not really meant to for him to be taking over the planet or anything like that. It's just the silliness in his character, the fact that he's so arrogant and just doesn't care about anything and wants to party all the time. That's why they kind of call them Party Thor. That's where that name comes from. The whole excitement in this episode is when Jane and Darcy fail to change Thor's mind and Maria Hill decides to bring in some more firepower. Now, it's revealed that this firepower is Captain Marvel. And with this, you see the pager that Nick Fury has. So it's actually deemed that when we saw the Infinity War movie and we saw Samuel L. Jackson take out the pager, and it seems like he was the only one that knew about it and that had this doomsday device to call Carol Danvers. That's not correct, because Maria Hill has access to that too, and it's hidden away inside of S.H.I.E.L.D. Maybe there's two pagers. Maybe she has one, and maybe Nick Fury has one in his personal vehicle, because that's where he got it from. So just in case anything went wrong and they could activate it when all hell breaks loose. So guess what? all hell breaks loose, and Maria Hill activates the pager. Now, the two of them, this is what we've wanted to see. As I said, I know it was the second trailer, Endgame, I believe it was. The second trailer came out where you saw Captain Marvel come to Earth, and James Rhodes says, you know, where have you been all this time? And she's like, yeah, there's been other issues in the universe. It's not just happening with you guys. And Thor walks up to her and calls his Stormbreaker, and she's standing there. The wind blows past her when he catches the hammer, and she doesn't even wince. She doesn't blink. He looks at her in the eyes. She smiles, and he says, I like this one. So the payoff there is that they never really had a fight. What's great here is that they do get to fight. And the fight is like these guys are fighting, you know, one punch is taking them from one continent to the other. And they're pretty evenly matched, if I have to say so myself. Although I've always said that Thor is the better fighter, and in terms of his power is very different set because he's a god. Whereas Carol Danvers in her binary mode, very different from the MCU. MCU, she's actually wielding the Tesseract power of the Space Stone. So here, they evenly match. It creates an epic showdown with these two godlike beings. And while fighting Captain Marvel on the mountain, Thor tells her to smile. That smile, remember, it's a bit of a nod to the scene we see in the Captain Marvel movie when the biker tells Carol Danvers the same thing, and she steals his motorcycle. And that's really, you know, a lot of men used to say that to women back in the 70s and 80s. It's a derogatory statement, and that's, I think, why they made a big kind of deal out of it. So it's nice that you can see this happening when they're fighting. But as I said, blow for blow, it turns out that, you know, she goes crazy. She's hitting him with everything, and he's really playing around with her, to be honest with you. And in the end, Thor wins the fight when he puts his hammer and pins her down to the ground. As you know, nobody can lift the hammer. Only Vision has been shown to lift the hammer. And of course, Steve Rogers, Captain America, has been shown to lift the hammer as well. But if anybody is not worthy of lifting it and Thor puts it on your chest, you ain't getting up. So Carol Danvers, with all her power, found out she couldn't lift it up. So she was pinned to the ground. Thor wins the fight. So with this being said, that brings an end to their fight. As I said, it's similar actually to what Thor did to Loki in the first Thor movie. And while this fight's going on, I do want to pin something to you guys. We see them flying through the, you know, kind of hemisphere and the sky and everything's happening there. But we pull up to this lovely tropical sort of beach settings and nobody says a thing. And you see a guy sitting down having a cocktail in the kind of sort of seaside chair and nobody says anything about it. I think that that's actually... Okay, I'm just putting this one out there, guys. I think that that's Tahiti. And I think the person sitting down having a cocktail is Coulson. Remember, in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Coulson May always talked about going back to Tahiti. I think that was just a small little sneaky Easter egg that they've thrown in there just for the Marvel fans, because if you're not watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or anything like that, you probably wouldn't have understood it. So I just think that's a nice little sneaky Easter egg that they've thrown in there. But this all ends up, you know, nobody can stop Thor at this point. And then Frigga's arrival prompts Thor to clean up his act. So everyone says, well, he always listens to Mum. Call Mum. You know, she's the one that can stop him. So it kind of ends in a really silly way. And it pretty much sums up this episode, to be honest. But I have to say, while cleaning up before Frigga arrives, Thor tries to straighten himself out. One of the shots is he's telling everybody to kind of clean up the planet. And you do get a shot. Now, is a clever one, guys. You do get a shot of Thor flying to Italy, going to the Leaning Tower of Pizza, which is something Christopher Reeve's Superman did in Superman 3. Now, you know, cleaning that mess up is a mess that didn't need to be cleaned up because the tower was supposed to be leaning. So that was a nice little DC Comics Superman Easter egg there. And I'm very grateful that the writers and the animators threw that in for fun. I really did like that as well. But here we go. Finally, you hear everything is over and everyone's happy and they make up and Thor asks Jane on a date, which she agrees. And that's it. Until you get the last screen. And you heard me talking about the final villain of this What If is going to be a Vision or Ultron wielding the Infinity Stones. And that's exactly what you see. You see a Vision returning with about 100 of his bots wielding the Infinity Stones that has Vision's face in it. Now, what this means is obviously that the Avengers never stopped Ultron from creating a new vibranium body, and he's wielding the Mind Stone as well, which happened in Age of Ultron. This is also, guys, the first time that we hear the Watcher getting confused. He's like, yes, they live happy ever after, when Thor asks Jane for a date. And the Watcher's like, yeah, this is all cool, it's nice, and they can live together happy ever after. And you kind of hear him go, but wait, and it catches him off guard. So that's something which we've never really seen before, because this is somebody who observes, kind of, whether he knows what's going to happen or not. He just doesn't get involved. And with each episode, we see him in space, we see him in the sky, and then he starts to get closer and closer and closer to Earth and to the ground. So here, it almost seems like you're not even seeing a silhouette or a shadow. You're actually seeing the Watcher himself. So with each episode and the dangers getting closer to us, we're starting to visibly see him in a bigger light. So really kind of like the way how they're playing that. But for me, guys, I have to say, Darcy ends up marrying Howard the Duck, which is just hilarious. The party phone with the Grandmaster and the Nebula was nice. I really like that. But I really did like this version in terms of a comedy. What happens and is it worth watching? Not really. It's not as worth watching as most of the other series. It's good for a laugh, to be honest. And because of that, I have to give this a 6.5 out of 10. So guys, let me know what your thoughts are about this episode. For me, it's great to see Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston seem to have a good old time bringing these versions of Thor and Loki back to life. They were in a booth, of course, so it wasn't being shot live action, but their banter is just as good as it can get. Both of those characters is just a gift that keeps on giving, guys. And for that reason, I would definitely say it's worth checking out if you've got nothing else to watch at the moment. But that's all from me, guys. Let me know your thoughts on it. Peace, and I'm out of here.